Tonight, before the earth had fully settled and before justice even knew where to look, a dead girl would speak, and when she did, she would point directly at her killer, because this is the true crime story of the girl who solved her own murder from the grave, a dark case file where the victim became the final and most powerful witness. It was a cold autumn morning when the body of 19-year-old Emily Carter was discovered at the bottom of a shallow ravine on the outskirts of a quiet Midwestern town. Her pale skin contrasting sharply with the damp leaves beneath her. Her eyes half open as if frozen in the middle of a question she would never get answered. And from the first moment the police arrived, there was something deeply unsettling about the scene. Something that made even seasoned investigators uneasy, because Emily was not just dead, she had been staged. Her hands positioned unnaturally. Her jacket zipped up carefully despite the violent injuries hidden beneath, suggesting intention rather than chaos, control rather than panic. Emily Carter was not someone people expected to end up in a dark case file. She was a college freshman known by friends as quiet but warm, a girl who kept journals, who loved photography, who believed small details mattered, and who, according to her roommate, always said that if something ever happened to her, she wanted the truth to come out, no matter what it cost. A statement that sounded dramatic at the time, but would later feel chillingly prophetic. She lived in a small apartment near campus, worked part-time at a coffee shop, and had recently ended a relationship that friends described as intense, emotional, and troubling in ways Emily rarely spoke about out loud. And although the town itself had a low crime rate and a reputation for safety, there was an undercurrent of secrets, the kind that exist in places where everyone knows everyone and no one really wants to know the truth. On the night of her death, Emily had been seen leaving the library just after 9 p.m. Security footage capturing her stepping outside, alone, her camera bag slung over her shoulder, her phone in her hand as she typed what would become her final messages. And by midnight she was dead, her life erased somewhere between the soft glow of streetlights and the darkness beyond town limits. Investigators initially theorized that Emily had been attacked by a stranger, a crime of opportunity, but there were details that did not fit, details that nagged at the edges of the case, because her phone was missing, her wallet was still in her pocket, and there were no signs of sexual assault, only blunt force trauma to the head and defensive wounds on her arms, wounds that told a story of someone she recognized, someone she fought, someone she had not expected to turn violent. As the investigation unfolded, suspicion shifted toward those closest to her, including her ex-boyfriend Daniel Brooks, a local mechanic with a temper known to flare under pressure, a man who had sent Emily dozens of messages in the weeks leading up to her death, some apologetic, others angry, and when police questioned him, he claimed he had been home all night, alone, watching television. An alibi that immediately raised eyebrows but could not yet be disproven. Friends were interviewed, professors questioned, timelines reconstructed, but the case stalled, and for weeks, Emily Carter became another name whispered in hushed tones, another unsolved tragedy filed under true crime and heartbreak. Then, something extraordinary happened, something that turned the entire investigation on its head, because 2 weeks after Emily's burial, her parents received a package in the mail, postmarked from their own city, containing a small digital camera wrapped carefully in newspaper, the same camera Emily had carried everywhere, and inside it, preserved like a message from beyond the grave, were photographs taken just hours before her death. The images were dark, grainy, taken in low light, but unmistakably deliberate, showing a man's boots on gravel, a familiar jacket sleeve, the interior of a car, and finally one haunting image that made investigators go silent, because reflected in a broken side mirror was the partial face of Daniel Brooks, his expression tense, his jaw clenched, captured unknowingly by the woman who would soon be dead. Forensic analysis confirmed the timestamp on the photos matched the estimated time of death, and further examination revealed that Emily had set her camera to continuous shooting mode, likely triggered in a moment of fear, a silent act of resistance, a last attempt to document what was happening to her. And in that moment, Emily Carter had done something almost unimaginable. She had begun to solve her own murder. Police re-interviewed Daniel, confronting him with the evidence, but he denied everything, claiming the images were circumstantial, manipulated, or taken on a different night. Yet cracks began to form in his story, and when investigators obtained a warrant to search his car, they found traces of Emily's blood beneath the passenger seat, cleaned, but not erased, along with fibers matching her jacket, and suddenly, the case that had been slipping away snapped back into terrifying focus. As the legal process moved forward, prosecutors built a case grounded not only in physical evidence, but in Emily's own silent testimony. Her photographs, her final data trail, and even entries from her personal journal found in her apartment, where she had written about feeling watched, followed about Daniel's refusal to let go, about a fear she could not quite name but felt deep in her bones. And reading those pages was like hearing her voice echo through time, warning, documenting, preserving truth. The trial was a media spectacle, drawing national attention, with headlines calling it one of the most chilling examples of posthumous justice, a true crime story where the victim refused to disappear quietly. And when the photographs were shown to the jury, there were audible gasps, because it was one thing to hear about evidence, and another to see the world through Emily's eyes in her final hours, to witness her courage, her instinct, her determination to leave something behind. Daniel Brooks was ultimately convicted of second-degree murder, sentenced to life in prison, a verdict met with tears, relief, and an aching sense of loss. Because while justice had been served, nothing could bring Emily back. And yet, her case left an indelible mark on both investigators and the public, reshaping conversations about victim evidence, digital footprints, and the power of small details. In the years since, Emily's story has been taught in criminal psychology courses, referenced in documentaries, and retold in dark case files like this one, not because of the brutality alone, but because of the haunting intelligence she displayed in her final moments, transforming fear into proof, panic into purpose, and silence into accusation. Still, there are questions that linger in the shadows, questions about whether someone else knew, whether Daniel acted alone, whether the town ignored signs it did not want to see, and these unresolved edges are what keep Emily's case alive, what make it more than just another closed file, because true crime is not only about answers, but about the uncomfortable spaces where certainty ends and doubt begins. Emily Carter solved her own murder, but in doing so, she exposed something darker, a truth about how easily danger can hide in familiarity, how survival sometimes depends on instinct alone, and how even in death, a voice can still be heard if it is brave enough to leave a record. This is Dark Case Files, where every crime leaves an echo and every story asks something of us. And now the question belongs to you. Do you think Emily always knew who would kill her? Or did she realize the truth only when it was already too late? And if you were in her place, would you think to do the same? And if stories like this grip you, disturb you, and stay with you long after the screen goes dark, subscribe to Dark Case Files for more true crime and more journeys into the darkness where the dead sometimes still speak.